everyone. Welcome back to One Media World, our 2023 conference. It's our global media event as we've been showcasing some of the best in business and entrepreneurship from within the media industry as we continue to learn from some of our experts here over the last few days as we explore the latest in trends and insights and innovations. And we've had some great opportunities to have some conversations with some really significant folks. And I would love to invite here and introduce Adam Taylor. He is the president and CEO of APM Music, and he's joining us this morning from Los Angeles. So, Adam, thank you for getting up, well, about 8:40, so it's not that early in LA, but we appreciate you sharing some of your morning with us. And we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about music bringing your stories to life, which always sounds tremendous, because I like to think of myself as a storyteller, and my music may be more limited, but I'm open for suggestions as we continue along here. And we've got your two friends behind us, and then they look like they're comfortable.
Yep. They will, if another dog walks by, they may bark in the middle, but you shouldn't hear it, but you will see it. They start barking.
Like an action shot. That's okay. That's no worries. I think since the last 3 years, as we've all learned to navigate these types of platforms and Zoom, I think we've all become a lot more forgiving as to what happens when we're talking and things. So that's
kids and dogs and other things. My wife keeps telling me I should put a nice piece of art behind me on the wall there, and I just haven't gotten to it because I'm so busy. But
understood. So just to kick off, why don't you give us a little our audience a little bit of a idea about your background and APM Music and some of the things you guys focus on in the industry.
Sure. Well, I'll start with APM because I think it helps to frame a little bit of my own background and how that led me to where I am today. APM Music is what's known as a production music library. The library business is essentially the kind of the music equivalent of a stock photography library. It started in the 1940s when people were utilizing music, mostly in the UK, for some programming. In those days, it was mostly live programming, and realized that they could reuse music. They could record it, they could reuse it for other programs. They didn't always have to have a live orchestra. And then they started licensing out the music to other programs and realized, oh, there's enough money in this to be able to actually produce music for a library that would then be made available for programming. And music rights are very complicated, and the library solution is to control what they call both sides, which means the actual composition of the song itself, which is the publishing, and the actual recording. So if you think about the best example would be like a song like, say, White Christmas or something, where it was written by Irving Berlin, and he owned the composition, but he didn't own the recordings. He didn't do the recordings. And Bing Crosby did a recording. The record companies, there are thousands of recordings of White Christmas, and Irving Berlin made money from every one of those that got utilized, but the individual person who owned the record made the money from the record sale. So, but in the library business, in contrast to the regular music business, where there are publishing companies and record companies that are separate companies, they may be owned by the same parent company, but they're separate companies. And in the library business, it's all one. We have all rights, so we can license the music to anybody who wants to use it for production. It's a one-stop shop. Every piece of music is the same price. You just have to pay the rate or negotiate a rate if you want to use the music in your production. And so that's how APM was started in 1983 in order to handle music rights that the parent companies owned from Europe. And there had been a previous distributor whom they weren't happy with, and they decided, these two companies, EMI and a company called ATV, to set up a separate company called APM Music. Ultimately, through a series of acquisitions, EMI was absorbed into Sony, and ATV, through a variety of different acquisitions, ended up in Universal. So APM has always been a joint venture and is a joint venture now between Sony Music Publishing and Universal Music Publishing. We represent music that they own. We also represent a lot of music from other great third-party libraries from around the world. And we also repurpose music. We have an extraordinary archival collection of music that goes back to the earliest days of the 20th century. We have a great classical collection. We represent the music of the NFL, Major League Baseball, Discovery Network, a bunch of the big European production companies and networks like ITV and others. So all of that together is a collection of music of over 1 million recordings of music, and it's all music for storytelling. And so our goal is to bring stories to life to help the quality of production. And we, APM handles the United States and Canada, and we license out to all of the studios and networks and cable networks and streaming platforms and OTT and ad agencies, leagues, sports leagues, and corporations, and many, many others. Thousands and thousands of people use our music every day.
No shortage of content, I would imagine, for placement of that music and recordings as you look at the digitization of just media in general and all the different possible outlets.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we're in the golden age of production today. And there's just so much going on. It's impossible to see it all, right? And so that's even just on the professional side. If you're talking about the UGC side, you've got a whole other world, and with millions and millions of videos created every single day, and between YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and everything else. And so there's this extraordinary thirst for music and music that is good, and not just stuff that is kind of average. And so all of our music is curated, and it's not crowdsourced. We are very, very particular about the music that goes into the library. And then we have a sophisticated search engine that's backed by a proprietary taxonomy and metadata tagging and algorithms that then hopefully deliver the set of music to a person searching in the search engine that they're looking for. And so really our goal, we only really have two kind of aspects to our goal of delighting customers. One is to have the best music, and the second is to have a system whereby people can get to that music.
Well, again, from a library standpoint, and as you said, the right word is curation, right? It really it's not just okay, throw it in a box, right? It's very much from a catalog standpoint, being very specific to know where to go and have the ability. And I would think that would certainly help as you're working with the storytellers to have, as you get that feedback, to come back and being able to optimize the searches that you do to help customize telling that story. I would imagine.
Yeah, no question. I mean, we put as much effort into the technology really these days as we do into the music. And with AI here to stay, there are a lot of different things that are going on. And I'm not talking about the creation of music by AI. That's a whole other category of a can of worms. But using AI to discover music is interesting. So we have an audio similarity engine on our platform. So you could take an APM track or an external track or a YouTube URL and paste it in, and then we will find tracks that have similarities to them. Not in the sense of ripping somebody off or anything like that, but it could be that they're both rock. They have kind of perhaps similar harmonic overlays, or the instrumentation is the same. The general feel of something is there, and these kind of AI tools allow you to be able. It's another way of discovering music, because really, how are you going to find music? You're either going to type something in, or you're going to use an audio sample as the source. So a lot of tools on our site. We're experimenting with natural language phrasing. So somebody could type in, "I'm running down the hall in the hospital feeling anxious but hopeful." Right? So that's my favorite one. And so how do you find music for that? Now we have 6 full-time music directors on staff who are experts at picking music for clients. And they're busy from morning to night nonstop. I could barely get a minute of their time because there are so many of our clients who really love the work that they do. And the goal of the search engine, obviously, is get as close as we can to that human experience, and by using the variety of tools that we have.
You think of human experience, I think of the old record shop, right? I used to love to go in, pick up and touch the album and look at the liner notes, look at, who recorded it, who are the musicians on it,
Sure.
all of those, or even the movie, what was it, High Fidelity, from all those years ago with the music store there. Now, obviously, if from a joint venture standpoint with Sony and Universal, that's two powerful partners for you guys, and I assume from their own archives, if you will, or their own content standpoint, you have a hell of a good jump start just with the music that they have in their libraries and catalogs as you go forward. How often do you when you look at the mixes of things you put in there from a genre standpoint, how do you know when to add something, or what becomes more popular, or do you ever take like an inventory, or is it just really, I mean, once it's in, and you never know when somebody's going to need it? Or how do you freshen up, and maybe that's the wrong word, freshen up the inventory or the content?
Well, going back just one step with Sony and Universal, they own music libraries that we represent. Their commercial catalogs we do not represent.
Okay.
So we don't have the Beatles or anything. We have music that's specifically written for storytelling, and this is music specifically written for libraries. And there's no difference in the quality of the music, really, although I'm not comparing what we have to the Beatles. It's really just how the rights are structured. And it's an extraordinary set of music that goes way back to the 1940s. We have fantastic live recordings of orchestras from well-known band leaders and others, and great composers starting from the 40s onward. And some of those composers really helped define the sound of television for probably 30 years. So that music has had an enormous influence on music in general. A lot of that music also today is sampled. We do sample deals virtually every day. We've been sampled by virtually every major hip hop artist and a lot of the electronic artists and things over the years, thousands and thousands of sampled derivative works that are created. In terms of the inventory itself, the library, we have through the libraries that we represent, that are some of which are owned by Sony and Universal, some are third party, some we own ourselves. There's a great deal of music that's being produced on a regular basis, and so there are probably 300 or 400 composers working on things for our libraries right now that will ultimately make its way into the library. So we spend a great deal of time trying to figure out what people want. What are people asking for? We look at the search terms every day. We know we get the information from the music directors of what they're getting asked for. We do a lot of analysis on what's being used, and then we make sure to interpret that for the libraries and others who are producing the music for us. And it's not simply, I mean, I guess you could kind of divide it into a couple of different categories here. We have a whole set of music of songs with lyrics in every kind of musical idiom, from things that sound like Edith Piaf and Judy Garland and Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra to things that are reminiscent of or inspired by contemporary artists. And or just independent individual singer-songwriters. We focus a lot on singer-songwriters who are they didn't just assemble to produce an album. They actually play, tour, do social media under their own name, and they're authentic artists and writing their own material in their own voice, and that's very, very important for us. So there's a constant need for that because that music and the styles are always changing. Then in terms of the music that serves as the kind of foundational core of library music, which is score, promo music, trailer music, background music, it's kind of everyday music for storytelling that moves the stories along, whether it's some big epic piece that might traditionally be used in a trailer or sports programming, to something that is, just background happy music that you might find in some commercial for some brand or something. So there's, the range is extraordinary, but even in any of those, you constantly need new material. We have clients who use over 100,000 of our tracks a year. There's so many uses of the music that we have to constantly be producing more music. It's a steady thing. So we pick the libraries, we pick the composers, we tell them what we're looking for, we make sure everything meets the levels of quality that we need, and we're constantly enriching the catalog, and then at the same time studying the search engine algorithms and tags and things to make sure that the latest styles are getting reflected. So when somebody types that into the search engine, it doesn't say no results.
No results, right? No, that you would hope not, right? When you look at the interactions like with the customers as they're looking for that particular piece of music to help tell a story or be part of a production, what's when they find it, right, or they come up with it, do they use a very small piece of it? Do they take the whole piece? Are they allowed to, like, once they contract with you, can they dice it up themselves? How does that part work? Is it all everything or snippets? How does it play out?
Well, it's really all of that. Write the tracks at a length which is sufficient to cover all of those needs. So somebody can use the whole track if they have a 3 or 4 minute segment or video of some kind, and they just want to follow the track and use it. They can. Often our tracks are between 2 and 4 minutes. Although we also always have cut down versions, and if we have vocals, we always have instrumental versions without the vocals. And there are versions we used to do 30s and 60-second length when commercials on TV. 30 and 60 seconds. Nowadays, that's more rare. And we have segments of tracks that are 5 seconds, 7 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Those are actually more common today. Then also we have what are known as stems. So a stem is a collection of the multi-tracks. You know how a recording can have like 48 tracks or something like that. Each one its own recording that are made to work together and come together as the whole song. You take the multi-tracks and you combine them where all of the vocal tracks go into one group, and that's called the vocal stem. And then you take all the percussion tracks and make a percussion stem and a brass stem and a guitar stem, things like that. So there can be 5 or 6 stems for a track. So in many of our, for our older tracks, from before stems existed, they don't really exist. But for all of our new material, we get stems in for everything. And so we're getting, we have a pretty good percentage of our library that has stems for every track. And we're experimenting with various AI technologies to be able to do what we call stem extraction. So using software to be able to create stems out of a track that doesn't have them.
That's pretty amazing. So you could be interacting with, so you have the recording, you have the entire piece, and somebody could say, I really like the percussion in that piece. Can you just pull that out? Right?
Yeah, just isolate that, just use that, and then they can do something else to it. So in terms of your question, people can write on top of things. They can change it. They can speed it up. They can slow it down. They can add a saxophone. They can do what they want with it. They can add lyrics. They can change the lyrics. The idea is that the music is for storytelling. Go tell your story. Use our music as the foundation and do what you need to. And today's editing systems with Logic and Final Cut and Avid's Media Composer and Adobe Premiere and all these other systems, there are so many different things that you can do to music.
I would imagine if you took a music engineer from say 1960. So when Elvis came back from the army and went into Studio B in Nashville, and you had that kind of engineering production equipment. If you had an engineer and then showed that engineer what you have now today, I bet it would be one of those remarkable aha moments where they come back and say, I can't believe what you've done, or your capabilities
Yeah, I'm not even sure. Some of it they just wouldn't understand.
No, it's got a little bit 2001 Space Odyssey to it for sure.
Yeah. But however, if you look at the work of Les Paul, he didn't only create the guitar. He did. He had like 60 or 70 very, very important music patents that covered recording and all kinds of things, and multi-track, and there are many, many firsts that were done by him, and that was in the 50s. And there's actually a documentary out about him, and there's videos on YouTube and things you can watch that show in his house where he's got all of that original equipment from. I mean, he's passed away since then, but it's just an extraordinary story of what people were able to do with audio even in those days. So yes, today it's all digital and it's a completely different thing. You can do different things. It's I think it's like anything any area where that technology has impacted. The internet is a perfect example. Yeah.
I remember hearing an interview with Scotty Moore once, and he was talking about how he did something with the guitar strings to kind of help on Mystery Train to kind of get that kind of sound to come out. You mentioned sports, and that's an interesting piece, certainly for short clips, right? When you think about like the baseball game, right? We were talking about Dodger Stadium. Somebody's now got walk-up music when they come up to home plate, right? Or if you're watching, say, a hockey game now, and with the amount of face-offs or whistles, they're now inserting ads and music for the time it takes the linesmen to skate down to the other side of the ice to drop the puck. It's not considered a commercial break anymore, but it's almost like an insert.
Yeah.
And then there's music that then wraps around that as well.
This is true. I wanted to just go back to what you said about Elvis, just because I have a personal connection in that I produced a documentary with Priscilla Presley years ago called Elvis in Hollywood, and it's available on Amazon for those who want to watch it. But it covers Elvis's first four films: Love Me Tender, Loving You, Jailhouse Rock, and King Creole, which are the four films he produced before he went into the Army. And then when he came back, the Colonel had him doing all of those like silly movies. But these four movies were really quite good. And as part of that documentary, my partner and I interviewed Scotty Moore. So I got a chance to meet him, which was great. So
I'm a big Elvis fan. I've been to Graceland a couple of times. I've actually been the guest disc jockey on Elvis Radio twice.
Oh wow, nice!
An hour I got to win the quiz show, so I got to pick the songs. Those four films were generally both on a personal level and I think generally from a critical standpoint, were always kind of viewed as his best.
No question.
Before the Colonel kind of got it into the cookie cutter kind of piece. I was going to ask you, Adam, too. You kind of alluded to it, like with Les Paul and the patents. How much does the IP play into this, intellectual property and obtaining the rights and the licensing and then giving it back out? I mean, it sounds like everybody needs a lawyer on staff for sure.
Well, we have a lawyer for contracts, with our clients because we're granting a set of rights, and we need to be clear about what rights we're granting, and we need to really be careful about that. There are also boilerplate aspects of indemnification and reps and warranties and things like this. So we do that when we represent a library in the United States and Canada. We represent that music exclusively. So we have a deal with the either directly with the composer or with the library that owns or represents a set of music, and so we have those exclusive rights. And so from that perspective, it's pretty easy. There are a lot of complications, though, around music rights. It's very, very complicated. I often tell people that I quote the great Nobel laureate physicist Richard Feynman, who said about quantum physics that if you say you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics. And it's very true about music publishing as well. If you say you understand music publishing, you don't understand music publishing. It's so incredibly complicated. It changes all the time. And it's different from country to country. And you could ask 10 experts a question and you'll often get 10 answers, with different nuances and things. It's a very complex thing. And part of the, even though we're subject to that, the beauty of the library structure and the way that rights are structured within the library industry is that everything, again, is pre-cleared, one-stop shop. You don't have to worry about it. You can come to us if you like the track. If it helps you tell your story, you can use it. So it's very simple and straightforward.
No, that's fantastic. When you look back at them, any favorite moments, any favorite something you come back and say, God, I was so glad we were part of that. Wow, we really outdid ourselves this time. What a home run this was, as as part of the storytelling.
Well, probably a lot of them. I did want to just add one thing first, though, which is that people don't realize about library music, because most people who are listening to this are not going to be aware of it. But more or less around 60% of the music that's on television is library music. So this is not something that there are a few tracks here or there, but the majority,
a significant presence for sure.
Yeah, the majority of the music used in programming are from libraries. So we ourselves did all of the music for Oprah Winfrey for decades. We did much of the music for SpongeBob SquarePants. We owned the Monday Night Football theme, that's a library track that was written by a great British composer, Johnny Pearson, in the late 60s, early 70s. And then somebody at ABC thought it would be a great theme for this new show starting up. They actually had used another song prior to that, but they changed it to this one in the early 70s. And it's become probably the most well-known sports theme in the country. People's Court, US Open, Wimbledon, This Week in Baseball. There's so many tracks. We have one of the things I love is we have a track that was written by a British composer, David Snell, in the 60s. And it's called Tomfoolery, and it's a lovely, wonderful little ditty. And this young man from West Virginia, who goes by the name of Dante 9K, you can look him up, did a remix of it. He took it out of, we had licensed it into SpongeBob. So he took it from there, he remixed it, he put it back in the clip, and he put it up on TikTok, and it went viral. And the song is used over and over and over again. Everybody, if you look up SpongeBob Tomfoolery on TikTok, you'll find it. And it's, there are over 6.5 million videos on TikTok with that remix in it. And so that's just, completely out of the blue. But in terms of favorite things, I mean, I'm very proud of the work that we do and the amount of music that we supply to all of the really important producers of programming in the United States and Canada, and really the leading library in the field. So very proud of that. Also, what we do in sports. We're probably the largest supplier of music to the world of sports, with league-wide deals with all of the teams and a variety of the big sports leagues. And we do a lot of college and things. And it's very exhilarating to see how the sports teams, both professional and college, use our music in their storytelling on social media. And because they all have to brand themselves, they have also so many interesting stories to tell. And we always remember I'm trying to remember the whole expression from Worldwide World of Sports. I remember the agony of defeat, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, right?
That poor ski jumper, right?
Yeah. And so that's what we try to get across, in our music, and they use these things in the storytelling. And it has also helped to give voice to a lot of new artists. In sports programming, they use a lot of hip hop music and anthemic rock. And there are a lot of songwriters and composers who have written in that style, really have gotten noticed because they're heard by other people in that kind of programming. So that's very, it's thrilling to be able to give an opportunity to songwriters and composers to be able to be heard. I think also one of the things that I loved, I got an opportunity to work with the great lyricist Hal David, For those who don't know Hal David, he was Burt Bacharach's writing partner for so many years. Bacharach David, from The Look of Love, Do You Know the Way to San Jose? What the World Needs Now is Love, Sweet Love, and hundreds of other tracks. So Hal did 5 albums for us, and there are 2 of them that I got to work with him on directly, and spend a lot of time with him and got to know him. And he was just a wonderful, wonderful guy and an incredible lyricist. I remember being in London with him when we were recording the album, the vocals at Angel Studios in London, and he's listening to the singer singing, and then all of a sudden he says, "No, stop, stop, stop," and he changed his lyrics on the fly. He just, because when he finally heard it being done with the music, which we had recorded at a different studio prior to doing the vocals, he just realized it didn't quite fit right. And he just changed it right then and there, and he would write them out, and they would copy them, and they would pass them out to the singer. It was amazing. So that was really exciting to
Well,
see. Yeah,
that's fantastic. What a great memory and great experience. I remember hearing Billy Joel talk about it years ago, and he was saying, well, they asked him what comes first, the music or the words. He said, "Oh, the music always comes first. The words come later." So it's interesting as Hal David was hearing it. It's like, oh, wait a minute, I got a better idea now based on what I heard.
Yeah. Well, Burton, he did. They went back and forth. It wasn't always, I don't think, although in many cases it was, but there were times I believe that Hal wrote and then Burt wrote music for it. So it could go either way. You never know. Great
memories, great collection. You really are a big part. APM music, really a big part of everybody's everyday life. They just may not know it.
Yeah, exactly. I tell people, you've heard our music a million times, you just don't know it.
You just don't know it. Wow, what a great story. Listen, Adam, we're up against a break here for us. What a wonderful conversation. Thanks so much for spending some of your morning with us here
My pleasure.
At One Media World. Adam Taylor, everybody, President and CEO of APM Music. Fantastic story, great work, and congratulations on all your success.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and good to talk to you. Appreciate it.
Hope to see you again soon. Take good care.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.